Hi guys, it's Emily from Novel Novels and welcome to today's video. This is my Spoonies story. Now, I've not planned this at all. I should have been like, these are the points I'm going to bring up, but so I don't know how long this is going to be. I don't know what it's going to be like. I am going to premiere it because I decided that way, if you guys have any questions to ask me about any of my Spoonies stories, you can ask me while you're watching if you want, because that might be helpful for you. Certainly for any fellow Spoonies sufferers, it might sort of be helpful for people who want to ask anything. And if you're watching this after the premiere, feel free to put any questions you've got or any comments in the description box, and I will answer them the best of my abilities. I have always been completely truthful on this channel about my highs and my lows. And those of you that have been with me since the start would have been with me since my operation, which did definitely change things. But a lot has happened, and my Spoonies story goes back a very long time. So like I said, I don't know how long this is going to be. I don't know if I'm going to cry. There is only one channel I'm going to link, and that's my sister Charlie from Charlie Brats, because, my sister Charlie from Charlie Brats Reads, because obviously as my sister and virtually my twin, she's been with me since the start. And she's, apart from my mum and my family, she really has literally been with me from the start. I'm already feeling tearful and I'm only just starting this, so God knows how this is going to go. My Spoonies story started when I was 18. I'm now 44. I was unfortunate that I got hit by a car on the 22nd of December 1997 when I was walking home from school. When I was, I just left work. I don't remember past. I was working at Boots Opticians in Woking at the time, and I don't remember leaving the store that day. I remember that I'd had a busy day at work. I remember that I just wanted to go home. It's 22nd of December, right near Christmas. I wanted to go home and I wanted my mum. Always what happens whenever things are going on. Still, I'm 44 and I still just want her. And I dashed off to catch the train home. I caught a train and then I caught a bus, and apparently I found out afterwards that my boss at the time was about to offer me a lift home, but I didn't get to him in time. I rushed out the door too fast, which is really weird because circumstance, who knows what it would have been. The bus stop was right on the main road opposite. I lived just over the other side of the main road, but there is an underpass that leads to my old house, but I was stupid that day. It was pouring down rain. I had my umbrella up. I had the old days of personal stereo, like headphones over. And apparently I worked out that I was listening to Isn't It Ironic by Alanis Morissette, for those of you that are old enough to know about that song. It's kind of worked out that was how I knew that was the song that was playing. And basically I didn't use the underpass. To this day, it's one of the biggest, worst decisions I ever regret making. And I crossed the road and I obviously hadn't looked very well. Working out from the injuries that we worked out, I apparently got knocked unconscious. I don't remember, like I said, I don't remember anything for at least a week or two after the accident. But from the way we worked out, the way my injuries were, I must have gone like that. So the car was coming, so I'd got halfway across the road when I got hit, and I must have got like that because that side of my head got hurt, got damaged. I had my optic nerve. We worked out at some point, we'll go into more detail, we worked out when I hit the car windscreen, I must have broken the balance nerve and hearing nerve on that same side, but we didn't find that out for a very long time after the accident. I've got a skin graft on my knee because when I fell, a big chunk of my knee came out and I lost a lot of muscle and everything else. But I had that side of my face, I got damaged. We worked out that I must have gone like that to protect myself because I shattered my whole elbow and broke my arm very badly. We've got a very big scar up there because my head had obviously hit the windscreen and went backwards and forwards. I don't remember much of this. A lot of this has been pieced together through the injuries and through vaguely people remembering. My mum and dad were wondering why I wasn't home from work that day. I can't even remember if I had a mobile phone or not, probably not. And it took them a while to find out because they'd obviously got my ID that was in my purse, and someone contacted my mum and dad and told them, and they got rushed off to a local hospital. The local hospital I got rushed off to couldn't look after me at the start because I was so badly injured. and I got rushed to another hospital. I don't know which point my mum and dad were there. I don't remember. I don't know. And then I was in intensive care in that hospital for a few days at least. I can't, like I said, I can't remember the details, maybe even a week. I don't remember Christmas that year. I think I've obviously wrecked Christmas for my family, and I'm really sorry for that. And then they transferred me to St George's Hospital in London, which has got a special memory because they were the ones that fixed the money in the end. Did it, otherwise I'd go into details. And then that was where St George's Hospital in London, I got put on a surgical ward, which was really stupid because I was only 18. I was very young, and I got put on a ward with people of different ages, but I had multiple injuries. But because the main injury that they were treating was the skin graft, that was what I got put on. So when I was there, they had to do the skin graft under general anaesthetic or local anaesthetic because I couldn't have general, I was too poorly. At the time, they didn't realise that my optic nerve had been cut. They didn't realise anything. I've got vague memories of that hospital because that was where I remember seeing my sister Charlie, and vaguely my mum. Dad was in the background. I think my dad's since passed away, but I remember him not really being around because he couldn't cope with seeing his daughter so poorly. And some of you can laugh at this point. When they were doing the operation, and we had to have there was a male nurse that had to keep me awake while they were doing it because I was very, very poorly. And they were doing the skin graft. And I remember talking about football, which is because I grew up with a family of uncles and that knew about football, so I talked about football. And apparently I was kind of chatting away and flirting a bit with the male nurse that was keeping me awake while they were doing the skin graft. So they took skin from my thigh and put it on my knee. We did not realise at the time how badly that knee was damaged and what it's now caused. Then I got taken not long after, I brought in New Year that year in London. I remember seeing the fireworks in London and thinking, this was my year. I was 18, I was supposed to be going out partying that year, and obviously I couldn't because I was in hospital. I was in London for 1997 to 98 New Year, but yeah, I was very poorly. And then I got transferred back to Frimley Park Hospital, which was a hospital I've been to more times than I care to remember over the going years because of my Spoonies Story. I think that was where they fitted a wrist splint, and they plastered up my arm, had a wrist splint to get me to use my physio on my hands because my hands were so badly damaged. They didn't think I'd actually be able to use my hand because the nerves were very badly damaged because of fractures. Unfortunately, yet again, because there were so many injuries, they didn't realise how badly damaged my hand would be and what would have to be my story. And as we get on, I'll be able to fill you in what's happened. So yeah, I got given with a wrist splint. When I was there, I had my first DVT. So that's a deep brain thrombosis, and that was a clot that was in my knee and travelled to my lung and nearly killed me. Spoony's side of it is that that day I was doing physio, and they think that the physio I was doing that day, walking around trying to get me moving, was what did the damage basically. It was what moved the clot, and that was the day that I found out that I was going to be blind in one eye for life. Pretty hard, isn't it, to get told that you're 18 and you're going to be blind in one eye? But that was what made me determined to walk and not let another thing knock me back. I was very poorly, and the day I had the clot, I went up. I'm not going to go into details, but it was very scary, and I wanted my mum. Again, my dad stayed in the background. He couldn't cope. My mum was there, and I remember feeling like I was dying and saying, look after my family, because they are all that mattered. But someone up there had another idea, and I managed to survive that. But I was very poorly, and it took a very long time to recover. I had 6 months off work full-time. I wasn't back to work for 6 months full-time, and even then I probably shouldn't have been. They never diagnosed, they never ever treated back then the mental side of what would happen. And these days I'm sure it would be treated differently. But I had a really rough time. I had to learn, I had to get people to help me cut up the food, I had to walk. I was very poorly from the DVT. I was on warfarin for blood thinners for a very long time, and I was very poorly. I had to learn to live with one eye. And at first I got told I had tinnitus because I had damaged my eardrum, and I was getting tinnitus, so I was getting the swearing, which was very hard, and I couldn't hear. Now I never looked into it. We had to get my knee better, we had to get my wrist better, and at one point the hospital consultant in London was saying that from me was saying you're never going to use your hand, and I was like, flip me, we're going to prove you wrong. Something myself and my mum were like, we're going to prove you wrong, and I did. I got better. I was able to use my hand, and things changed. But it's been a hard journey. So those were the sort of first things that I had to deal with. For years after my operation, I had pain in my knee, and originally they thought it was arthritis, so they were treating it with anti-inflammatories. And I lived with knee pain from very early on, and until my son Thomas was born, until I had another issue. That was what they thought it was. They just thought it was arthritis. You have to live with nerve. You have to live with the pain. Put you on anti-inflammatories. You know you're going to make it. That kind of thing. I had physio on that, physio on my hand, various other, and over the years I've had various different physios on both my knee and my hand. One of them, with the hand, they discovered when I was investigating it at a local hospital. They discovered that the fractures in my elbow had damaged the nerve that goes from my elbow down to my hand, especially two of my fingers. I've got very bad nerve damage, and I get a lot of pain in my elbow, in my wrist, and that's got progressively worse. So I wouldn't be surprised if it's now arthritic, but for various reasons I'm scared to go to the hospital and look it up, because I've had various very negative feelings from being in and out of hospital over the years. It's just got too much. Maybe at some point I will deal with it. I have physio exercises to do, and I still to this day get swelling in my elbow, and my wrist gets pain. I've also got now another condition which I'll go into shortly, which affects my hands, but this arm especially gets a lot of arthritic, and it's swollen a little bit today actually, so I've got to do my physio. Not long after that, I was blessed. I met Chris, my partner, 18, nearly 19 years ago, and he has been a rock. I had mental health breakdowns several times over the going years between the car accident and meeting Chris. Various relationships and things that caused me to have nervous breakdowns, and at one point I wanted it over, but I didn't. I had something stop me. I think it was my family again, and thank God they did. But when I met Chris, we've had a rocky journey. It's not all been a bed of roses, but he's been amazing at helping me tackle my disabilities. One of the things he did was, when I was complaining about the hearing stuff, he was like, look, you need to look into this. We need to find out what's going on. We need to get you some help. And he has been incredible at getting help. My family got him to try walking around with a blindfold on one of his eyes so that he could understand what it was like, how hard it is for life with only one eye. And he was like, oh my goodness, how do you do this? Like, he was really supportive. But when he got me to find out the hearing side, I went to another hospital near me, and they did a load of tests. I was in a hearing booth, and through various different tests at the hospitals, when I was in the hearing booth, apparently they were doing certain sounds that were so loud. Chris was like, how is she not hearing this? And they were like, she can't. And that was where they discovered that the hearing nerve and the balance nerve got cut in the back of my head when my windscreen hit the windscreen wiper backwards and forwards. So that was quite traumatic. And they discovered that I'm deaf in my ears, and that will be a permanent thing. There's nothing they can do. And when I tried getting hearing aids through my work, they said that because it's nerve damage, that there's nothing they can do. They can't get the hearing back. So I have to kind of learn to live with white noise, learn to not have it too quiet. When I'm having anxiety attacks, my tinnitus will get very bad as well. I live with tinnitus, and it can get very high pitched, and that can give me really bad headaches and make me really wiped. So they discovered that. Then lived with all this, thought, all right, I've dealt with two of the disabilities. I've got the physio exercise on my wrist, dealt with that, hearing, learnt to live with being half of me not working. And then we had my daughter, which was great. I fell pregnant very quickly, so the blessing was that side of me hadn't been injured, and I thought that could have been. But we got blessed. And then I had a miscarriage, which was very devastating when we were trying for our second baby. And then I fell pregnant with my son exactly 3 months after the miscarriage, because I went to a smear test and got told, if you want to have a baby, today's the day. And we did, and we fell pregnant with Thomas. And again, I had a very bad pregnancy, very, very, very bad nausea, very bad, I was very, very sick with him. And I thought Mia being back to back was a hard pregnancy, but oh no, Thomas's took a whole new spurt, because I had another DVT. I was over 20 weeks pregnant. I knew I was expecting a son, and I remember at the start of the week passing out, which was quite common with me because I have low blood pressure when I'm pregnant, and falling over, and they had to get my little girl to, she was only 2 at the time, to get my hold of my mum because I wasn't very well. And they got me to the doctors, mum got me to the doctors. They thought it was the clicky hip thing you get, and the doctor didn't really look at my leg or look at anything. She was like, right, you need to go to the asthma clinic. I think the problem you had with your breathing was because of the asthma and because of how big baby is. And the asthma clinic were like, no, your breathing's fine, something else, you need to go and rest. I don't know what it is. Going back to the doctor was again not very helpful. They didn't notice anything. Kind of got told to rest for a bit, and I was calling work going, right, I'm not going to be in for a little bit, I need to rest. Thought it was just clicky hips, you know, whatever. And then it got progressively worse over the week, and luckily my neighbour is a health professional, and she took one that when Chris was like, someone got her, and I was scared because I wasn't very well and I was looking after a 2-year-old, and my neighbour said, your ankle's swollen up, I don't mean to scare you, but I think it's a DVT, you need to call your doctors, you need to go to the hospital. So we did. First, Chris was supposed to take me and my mum was going to look after Mia, but he had a very bad, he couldn't cope, and that was understandable. It was me and his son inside me, and so he was like, get your mum and Charlie, and we got rushed up to Frimley. And I said to my mum, because technically, I don't know how it is, I thought my mum was the next of kin because me and Chris aren't married, but I don't know since then what's happened. But I said to my mum, if it comes down to it, you save Thomas, you don't save me, you save my, I didn't know it was Thomas, but you save my son, you don't save me, which looking back was a bit selfish because I should have thought about Mia really, but I was my child, and I had to protect him. And they diagnosed a DVT. I had a very anxious weekend where they put me straight on the injections to thin the blood, and they were very worried. We were all worried because if that would have gone to my lung, then yeah, me and Thomas. But there were good things in the fact that the clot was so big that it wrapped. When they discovered it a week later, they discovered that the clot was wrapped around my knee joint and wrapped around my hip joint, and it went all the way down my leg. And so for a very long time, I still went back to work a few weeks later, and my work were like, what the hell are you doing? You shouldn't be back here. Because I passed out at work. That was how I knew that something was wrong with the DVT. A few days before, I passed out at work. And I stayed at work even though I'd passed out. God, the insanity's with me, hey? And yeah, so I was on blood thinners throughout the rest of the pregnancy, and we were scared. We thought they thought they had to induce him, but they didn't. It was because he was a big boy and he blocked the nerve damage, blocked the blood supply to my leg. So that was why that happened. And he was early. And I thought after having him, we had another very traumatic labour, because I got told to stop the blood thinners as soon as I went into labour because it could affect my blood when I was giving. I could have bled very badly with Thomas. And he still didn't want to move. He didn't want to come out. I'd stopped eating and drinking because I don't do very well with labours. But they had to break my waters, and that was a very traumatic. I had training midwives with me, and it was a very traumatic labour. But I had Charlie by my side, which was amazing, because she made sure, her and Chris together, they made sure that I got everything I wanted. I didn't want epidural because I'd had a bad experience with that with Mia. So yeah, that was what we wanted. And I had the labour, I had Thomas, and I bonded. But I had post-traumatic stress and PTSD, postnatal depression with Thomas. But that went very differently to what it had gone with Mia, in the fact that with Mia, I didn't want her near me. With Thomas, I wouldn't let anyone else go near him. He was very clingy. Because we now think that because of the blood supply, because of the problems with the pregnancy, I didn't produce enough milk. So he was always hungry, and I wasn't able to produce the milk. And since then, we discovered that he had a raised cleft palate and a bifidubula because he was very sickly, didn't sleep, very congested all the time. But I knew something was wrong with him, but that's another story. And anyway, so we thought my knee would be okay after, when I gradually went off the blood thinners, we thought I'd be okay. I had loads of tests, and they discovered that I've got thick blood, but because I'd stopped the tests before the end, I'd gone through so many, but they didn't have all the results. They had done the strong ones, but they discovered that They didn't put me on blood thinners because they were thinking that both my two DVTs were because of traumatic experiences. So I've been told obviously to be careful now. Every time I have an operation, I'm on blood thinners. Every time I am immobile for too long, I'm on blood thinners. I have to permanently, like if I cut myself and I don't bleed very much, they have to keep an eye on it. We're permanently keeping an eye on my blood because if it gets thick again, I'm at another risk of another clot. I can't go on long journeys. There's so many things I can't do and I have to be careful. Anyway, so when my son was about a year or so old, I got knee pain again, and again we went through all of this. So I was like, right, I want to get this checked out. I've got a young son, I want to get that. Also, at the same time, I had a this was very traumatic. I had a torn retina. I had a slight tear in my retina, in my back of my optic nerve, and this was on my seeing eye. I couldn't see, and I had the whole thing, and I had to have an injection. They had to laser my eye to get to stop me losing the sight in both my eyes, which was very scary. I'm at increased risk of losing my sight in my good eye because I've got a very high prescription. So that's pretty scary in itself. That's another one. But after that, they went through the whole looking at my knee again. And it was only through various millions of different scans they discovered that the whole time they thought it was arthritis damage to my knee. It wasn't, it was nerve damage, and the second DVT had really shot it to pieces. So if the first DVT had done me damage, the second one really shot it to pieces. And I have gone through, nerve pain is very bad. I'm on amitriptyline all the time, and I have gone through so many different operations with this. I mean, so many different times where they've tried to burn the nerve. They've done surgical burning of nerves, they've done electrotherapy in my knee, they've done so many things to try and fix this. And none of it was working. I was in and out of hospital so many times. And then I was blessed that, I think it was 4 years ago, because I can't remember. I think it was just, about 4 years ago, they discovered that the hospital were like, we can't do any more. There's only one more procedure. It's expensive. If you get accepted to it, you'll be lucky. And that was this procedure. This is a neurostimulator. So I went through a year of waiting for this because I had to go through various tests. I had to go through a demo. I had to go through everything. And it was just before COVID, so it was literally 3 years ago that I got blessed with this operation. I've got a neurostimulator in my spine, little pacemaker there. I had an operation down the back of my spine to put the nerve is down my spine, attached to my spine. Pacemaker's there. I have to charge it up every other night. This is sending electrotherapy all the way through my knee. But this is to help. It will never get rid of my pain. It is to stop me being on medication, and it is to make my life bearable. And it has stopped me being on crutches. So that is a lifelong thankful God that I'm now walking and I'm not on crutches. But this does not stop the pain. I still get flares. I'm currently going through the perimenopause. My knee pain at the time of the month will be worse at certain times of the month. It's worse when the rain's out. It's worse when different things. There's various contributing factors. It also is, because it's nerve damage, it is also affected by my moods. So if I'm having a rough time, I tense up and it will make the nerve pain worse. I had a relapse at the start of the year, or the end of last year, I don't even remember now. And basically I got re-referred to the hospital to a different pain clinic, but I decided not to go ahead with it because when I read the note from the referral from my GP, it was a different GP that I'd seen in locum, and she basically accused the whole reason I was getting the pain was because my anxiety was bad. My anxiety is bad when I go to the doctors because I've been in and out of hospital so many times that I have anxiety attacks every time I go to the doctors. I have to wear a face mask, which sets off another series of anxiety attacks because of COVID memories, and I had a panic attack. And she basically said that the reason why she's going through this is all in her head. It's all psychosomatic. I know I've got nerve damage. I've got flipping brain damage because of my head injury from the car accident. I know what sets me off. I know what makes me worse. But the fact to blame it on that got me fuming. And I was like, sod them. I'm going to fix this myself. And I've got myself better. I've learnt to be talking to my friends. I've learnt to talk about things. I am a spoonie because I have good days and I have bad days. If I'm having a flare, I can get chronic fatigue. I live with chronic pain. For every single minute of every day, I have some form of pain, and it's how I manage it. Most of the time it's managed by this. Sometimes I have to take extra medication. Sometimes I have to rest. And it's not fun. My most recent diagnosis is now that I've got fibromyalgia. Oh no, why do I keep saying fibro? It's not. I've got Raynaud's syndrome, which is what's causing blood circulation problems to my fingers, toes and head and ears, apparently. I get pain. I got rushed to the doctors this December because over Christmas and winter time because I couldn't feel my toes, and that was pretty scary. I'm still going to go to speak to my consultant and with this see if the two Raynaud's is connected to my knee and how that would be at work and how I'm going to manage that in the coming years. Raynaud's makes it harder. Raynaud's, when it's also connected to my arthritic and my painful hands, means that this hand can get very painful. The joints get swollen. It can be very, very sore. On the other side, it can be either be very cold or when it's very hot, it can get affected. But Raynaud's is also affected by heat, by emotions. So I have to keep my moods in check. Today is going to be bloody fun because I've got lots of going on in my head. I have good days and bad days. So some days I can do everything, and some days I'm crawling on my hands and knees. But I've got two kids that are 11 and 9. My 11 and 8, and they are my total and utter blessings. So I have to look after them. I have to do this. Chris works full time. I only work 2 days a week because after a shift at work, I will then have to spend the next day resting. I do a voluntary job 3 hours on a Thursday at the Baz Books, my charity shop. But even then, I have to take it gently. If I'm having a bad pain day, sometimes I leave early or sometimes I just have to rest. But I will be using these on those days, and no matter what's going on, work will set me off. I will leave. Some days I leave work and I've not used it too much. Some days I'll be leaving work and my zapper's on the highest level. I have to go home, get my leg up high to get the swelling down, and I have to rest. I have to look after myself. And it's taken me a very long time to stop beating myself up about my Spoonies story. But I've not let any of these disabilities stop me. I'm doing a job I love. I've got a voluntary job I love. I'm back reading. So yeah, I've had it. I'm not denying it's been a shit journey. But I've got 2 gorgeous kids. I've got my beautiful sisters. I've got my mum still, thank God. My blessing is my mum. She's amazing. I've got all of my friends, my Booktube friends, which I love each and every one of you. Yes, Jem, you can throw up now. I love each and every one of you. And all of them have helped me. Like, they don't know, the Book Waffle group, they don't know how amazing they are. They're just my best friend. So I started on Booktube because I love books, and it was my way of getting through all of this. I started on Booktube because I needed to find a way of being me, and not me that is restricted by my pain. So my books are, I read loads, but I read to escape the pain a lot of the time and to escape the mental problems that go with that. And my books have saved me emotionally. They've saved me. They've made me learn that it's okay to be me. This community has accepted me for who I am. And yes, my Spoonies story has been hard, and I wouldn't wish this on anyone. And I wouldn't wish, but then a lot of other people have it a lot worse. There's so many people out there that have their own stories that are not fun. But we're all here to support each other. And the reason why I did this readathon was that I wanted to get all these things that people can't see my disabilities. And I find it out in my job with the working opticians. So many people can't see other people's disabilities. And so because they can't see them, they don't understand what it's like. And they're not as supportive. And I want to support other people. I want to help awareness be better and better at supporting. Don't pity people, but ask them if there's anything they can do. Listen. The key thing is listening and asking people how they can help you. Volunteer to carry someone shopping, buy them a little treat, even if it's a chocolate bar or any little thing that can help. Sending hugs, giving a hug. There are so many things we can do to support each other. Talk about something they love just to distract their mind. But listen, because if we're not there for each other, we're nothing. And this community is amazing at listening. And I hope this story can help, and if there's any way this helps other people, or helps understand or do anything good. I want what shit happened to me to have some positivity coming out of it. But before I leave, I just want to say thank you to all of you. Especially thank you to Charlie from Charlie Book Reads, my best friend. Because without you, I wouldn't be here. I would have given up a long time ago. Thanks to my mum, and especially Chris, if he's watching, my gorgeous partner who turned my life around. Thank you all. And I hope this video has helped. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. If you're new to my channel, subscribe, bring on my ding-a-ling, and I'll see you all soon. Bye.